how you think the global south can link together and be stronger, in our diversity and our differences and our multipolarity, but also in the commonalities in our histories and in our struggles as well.
Look, I think that point is true. The ability for the global south to kind of come together is a necessity. I do think if that doesn't happen, the alternative is almost too worrying to think about, because we cannot, again, I mean, you watch, it's not, yes, there's the Palestinian question, but as we are sitting here in Sudan, you have millions of people displaced as a result of a war that isn't a necessary war. This is not a war in order to defend a principle. This is a war that's no good for anyone. I can tell you a similar story about the Congo and about 10 other places. So if we don't want Palestine, Congo, and Sudan to become the story of the world, then we have to come together as the global south. So number one is that this is it's not a debate or should we not. I think it is an existential question. If we cannot pull the global south together around questions of peace and dignity and prosperity for everyone, then the alternative is a disaster. The second point, in order to do that, is I think we have to deal with these contradictions. Because, of course, we need more. We need more better communication. We need more better trade. We need more better development. We need roads. We need hospitals. We need electricity. I mean, the example I gave about electricity, the electrification of the African continent is an urgent task. I think, though, we have to remember that the purpose of development, of growth, is for the benefit of people. We don't want economic growth because we like statistics. We want economic growth because that is something that is going to help the people, help the country, help us be able to do certain things. Africa is not a poor continent. I mean, the Congo Basin is fertile enough to produce food for the entire African continent. At the same time, if you are looking for malnutrition and hunger, you will also find it in Africa. The most fertile place in the world where you can grow food has hunger. Why is that? This is not a problem of science. This is not a problem of capacity. This is a problem of a neo-colonial, problematic so-called global order. That has to be overthrown. We have to resolve the contradictions in our societies in order to make sure that when we do things like people-to-people relations, like trade, like cooperation, etc., that it's for the benefit of the people in our respective countries. But I think the last point that I want to make, which I think is important, and it kind of ties the two together. So on the one hand, the alternative to unity of the global south, I think, is the end of the world. Two, in order for us to achieve that, human beings have to be the object of why we are doing what we are doing. We're not doing things because we are bored or for fun. We're doing it because at the end of the day, we want to end hunger. We want to have education for our children. We want to have healthcare for sick people. That's the goal that we have. And this is, I think, that has to be the kind of the goal of the global south. We have a common history. We have a common world that we're inheriting, but we also have this kind of destination. But I think it is important to remember that we are not advancing this project in a neutral space. There is a counter-offensive against the idea of the global south. Sometimes we are very critical. I'm very critical about what we are achieving, how we haven't achieved certain things. Sometimes it's because of our own mistakes and our own weaknesses and so forth. But sometimes it's because of this counter-offensive. And I think we have to not be blind to that counter-offensive. 80 years ago, we are marking the defeat of fascism. I think maybe we need to rephrase that, because I don't think fascism disappeared 80 years ago from the planet. And maybe what we have to deal with is the construction of the global south, when that spirit of fascism that had a setback 80 years ago is at risk of returning. And I think we have seen what in Palestine and many parts of the world, there's no qualms about reintroducing fascism and fascist tactics in order to avoid this global south project. So I think we have to understand the context. We have to remember why we're doing what we're doing. But at the end of the day, we have no choice but to succeed, because failure is not just our failure, but it's also a failure for future generations.
Can I add just one point?
Of course.
Because I also we talk about these problems of racism, patriarchalism, and of course we have a huge issue of class struggle as well. So I think this is more and more need to be mentioned in dialogue with, especially with China. And if you think with about Vietnam as well, it's a good example. It's a different type of socialism, but we have also to remember how brutally attacked they were, and they come up with a society that doesn't have the achievements of the ones that China have, but they still they came out from a situation that was very, very brutal and delicate. But I think in our countries, and I think there is I know that in all of our countries there are a struggle for socialism, and I think for us it's important to highlight that the achievements that China had in these decades was because of socialism. And now, even as a media, we have a challenge now, because we have more and more influencers coming here to China, and they strategically erase the word socialism in their reports, in their videos. They say, oh, it's so beautiful, a lot of new technologies, advancement, big buildings, etc., and the culture. It's important for China, because China has been attacked, and I think it will continue to be attacked. So it's important to China to have more people from all parts of the world coming here and to show China in any way. But from our side, I think we need to make the effort to highlight the role of socialism in this, because it's not to copy. I think Chinese people are very keen, very preoccupied, the concern to not export. They always say we are not trying to export our model to any country. But from our side, I think we should not try to import or try to copy, but to understand that all of these achievements of common prosperity is because of socialism. And sometimes, just to wrap up, there's a lot of people in Brazil that see China and say, we should do this or that. And it's kind of innocent, because they think it's just to move something here and there and you will have the same results. So I think more and more for our countries in Latin America and Africa, it's important to highlight the aspect of or the centrality of socialism in the achievements of China.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much for your